Good day, strategy gamers, and welcome back to episode 13 of our Let's Play series of War in the East 2, Stalingrad to Berlin scenario. In this episode, we're going to finish up the ground movement phase of turn 7. We'll also execute the end of turn, and the new mechanic that we're going to look at in this episode is going to be the reinforcement and withdrawal schedule, and we'll handle that at the end of our ground movement phase here, in between that and ending the turn. So where we left off from episode 1 was we had just gotten done working through our actions around the Smolensk front, and now we start to transfer into what we can kind of call the western frontier, which is stretching from Smolensk down to Stalingrad. And it was in this area that when we look at the map, we see that there were a number of positions that the Germans have now retreated from, as a result of us having pushed through in different pockets. So seeing things like this right here and just all this open space really, it's exciting to see because it means we're on the offensive, we have the initiative, and they're on their back foot. So let's go through and see how much damage we can deal here. We'll start right here, and I think one of the first things we're going to do is just move in this rifle division to occupy this hex that they have exited. And we see that there's 2 infantry divisions, each of equal strength in these 2 hexes. So we're also going to bring down the 149th to fill in the gap that they also left here. But then right here we have 2 infantry divisions that they've actually stockpiled right there. So it's a little bit of a stronger force. And then down here they have the 197th. And I want to see this 9th Guards, if we just took this as is, what our odds are. So that's about 2 to 1 if we were to make that attack right now as is. I think what we might do is we're going to bring down the 356 Rifle Division. And then we're going to look at the 9th Guards. We're going to maybe assign a support unit to it. I'm thinking we're going to add in probably the 213th Tank Brigade. The 103rd Separate Tank Battalion actually is from Stavka, and it looks like it's pretty low TOE, so we're going to go with the 213th. And we'll also toss in the 238th. So now when we take both these units, we see that we have a little better than 2 to 1. We almost have 3 to 1 odds. Let's do one last check. Their fortification level is only 1. So I'm going to try to press this and see if we can't knock them out. And we did. They retreated. We knocked out 24 of their armored fighting vehicles. I do want to take a look at that real quick because I think that's a pretty good result for us. Killed 1,000 of their men. We only lost 15 of our armored fighting vehicles. Yeah, so these are more SP units. We have Marder 2s, Panzerjägers, and Stug 33Bs. It's a pretty heavy blow for them there. Whereas we lost 8 light tanks and 7 medium T-34s. In terms of guns too, they also lost 20, which is about 20% of their force, so that's pretty good. It looks like a lot of them though were mortars and then some 75 pack 40 AT guns. We lost mostly AT guns, it looks like, which makes sense considering the amount of armor that was involved in this attack. So now we've pushed them back, and one of the other reasons we wanted to do that not only was so that way we can maintain our, say, aggressive stance, but also so then if they wanted to counterattack right here at the corner of our front, they cannot do it now from 2 different hexes. So the greatest vulnerability that we're going to have is going to be them taking these 3 divisions in total and trying to push back our 149th Rifle Division. So to help with this, I think we're also going to go here and we're going to assign, this anti-tank regiment. I don't know how much armor these units might have. And if you recall from the very beginning episodes, we talked about how we had turned Fog of War on. If we did not have that on, we would have the advantage of actually being able to see here. We'd get a little pop-up, much like when we hover over our own units at the bottom of the screen here, that tells what is the composition of what you're highlighting. without the fog of war on, we'd actually be able to see that when we highlight over them here. But anyways, I think we did just a little bit of reinforcement there to help out. The other area of concern is going to be up here, because again, we have, well, this is really kind of just 2 infantry divisions, because one of these is the Luftwaffe Field Division. However, the 56 is a much higher combat value than these others that are down here. So I think we might do something similar here with the 111th. We might assign to it, let's do this 12th Destroyer Anti-Tank Brigade, just to try to help as much as we can in case of a possible counterattack there. Now we'll take a look at the 3rd Army, and this one unit seems to have had a little bit of supply issue, and down here the 137th did as well. And I don't think we're going to go too crazy here, because they do have a Panzer Division ready for the counterattack. So I think what we might just do is bring up and reinforce our line, but not necessarily press for any type of offensive here. And now this again puts them in the position of, are they going to keep these units here, risk us getting all around that unit, or are they going to pull back and try to form some type of defensive line? My gut's actually telling me that right now they don't have a constituted army that could actually come up and defend against the 3rd Army and the 61st Army here. So I think we might be in a position where over the next couple of turns we're just going to walk right into Orel, because I don't think they'll risk losing these forces by being encircled and surrounded. Also just going to move up our HQ here, and I'm going to move down the 61st because this gets it a little closer to where its forces actually are. Then we take a look at the 48th Army, and here, if possible, I would really like to push against these infantry divisions. So let's just see what it is if we go all out here. It's 2-1, and they have no fortification. So I think we might actually press our attack here. And let's see if we can't... Oh, we've actually already assigned a tank brigade to the 6th Guard. And the 211th is pretty high fatigue. The 137th is as well. And the 5th. Does it maybe make more sense to take like the 41st Rifle Division? No, we're not going to have enough movement to actually attack there. Part of me is saying to just hold the line and let these forces kind of reconcentrate themselves. But if we can push them back, I think this is a big win. So we're going to go for this. And they retreated. Good. Good news. We're not going to press that because we're going to fatigue our units too much. You see, now they have to worry about us having 2 different approaches, a path towards Orel. I think we'll take these units and, yeah, it's just 1-1. We're not going to bother with that. Probably not going to do much else here at the 48th Army. I see that we have this armor unit down here, and this was part of that push we did a while ago where we really tried to press the advantage of this little breakthrough we had. And I think we need to continue to reinforce our line. So what we might do is move up the... Some of these units are just really hurting. Let's... I don't know if it's more important to reinforce this hex or this hex here. I think they're both probably pretty equal importance. Do we have... Let me look here. maybe there's enough in the 38th Army to kind of wrap around. So we're going to move up this rifle division here so they can kind of protect that corner. And then if we say the 245th Rifle Brigade isn't going to be enough to hold that line. So that means we have to go here and here. We are going to just move up the HQ, I think. And then we take the 74th and move them up. The 15th comes up. And then the question is, where does the 132 go to reinforce? I think we're going to put it... Tempted to put it right here. I think we will. Okay, so there's that. I do think what we will do is take this cavalry. We're just going to do a hasty attack there and they retreated. Just presses them off the line. What if we actually did go a bit on the offensive here? No, we don't even have 1-to-1 odds. See, this is a sector where we're going to have to hold the line a bit. But if the weather was better, this is where we'd be using a lot of ground support. These air armies would be getting a lot of priority in terms of ground support. Because this is the type of situation where we'd really need it. The other interesting thing is that compared to much of the front that we fight on, this area is actually very open, which is one of the reasons the largest tank battle in human history happened right around Kursk. Is it's plains, open ground, not a lot of forest, right? But it's kind of proving to be an advantage here to the Germans with a lot of their motorized divisions that they have. It's allowed them to be more mobile in reconfiguring how they're setting up defensively. My hope is that as the 3rd Army and the 61st Army push down and take Orel, that will actually put pressure and allow us to spread out this front line, making it easier to push through this pocket. But we'll see how that goes. Moving over here to take a look at the 38th Army, there aren't too many places where we're going to be able to try to push through. We have this Panzer Division, which is a little weaker there. See, we have this rail unit. Let's see. Okay, so it's trying to repair these rail lines. That makes sense. It'd be really nice if we could get him to go up here and also help with those rail lines. But anyways, different conversation. I think a lot of these units we're just going to hold. This one I'm actually debating pulling back. I think we might pull this one back. Because I don't know that I want it fighting. So let's see, that's a Panzer Division. Motorized and Infantry Division. So 3 divisions there, plus a Panzer Division here. 4 divisions against this 1 Rifle Division. So I think we are going to pull that back from the front line. And here we have the Latvian SS Motorized Brigade and the Hungarian Light Division and the 260 German Infantry Division. And with all of that, yeah, we're not even close to 1-to-1 there. So I think we will continue to hold this front line. Maybe we push back this Netherlands again. I feel like history's repeating itself. We've hit that a couple times. They retreated once again. Okay. But we'll keep forcing them to do that, so that way, again, they don't have the opportunity to increase their fortification levels. It means each turn they have to kind of reset, and their men have to spend more and more time building those foxholes, building those trenches to try to defend themselves. Down here, when we get to the 60th Army, does the 60th Army really spread that much? Wow. Okay, but when we get to the 60th Army, I wonder if we don't take this 25th Guards here. If we move over, this 199th Rifle Division is not enough. We have enough to take out this Panzer Division? No, that's 1-to-1. What about here, these two Luftwaffe? I think we will do this. Oh, we do not have enough to do so. Okay. So we're probably just going to hold here. Down here, we'll take our advantage of having all three hexes to attack this. And they were routed. So that's excellent news, because that then is one less division they can have on their front line. And then our fortification level is 1 here. And that's a rifle brigade and a rifle division. I don't think we're going to move into that hex, though. Could get that rifle brigade down there, but it's just not going to be enough. So we'll leave that be. And then down here, with the 6th Army, look at all of this. Look at all of this space. So we're first going to take the 219th Rifle Division and move them there. Then we're going to take up the 270th. That comes there. Bring down the 15th Rifle Corps. What happens now? Let's do that. So they retreated. So that's good. And then look. We have this motorized brigade. So let's take that here. Now we've kind of gotten in and around behind them. But I think I'm actually going to move back one. I don't want to have myself exposed there, so we're going to sit on this stack with this rifle division. All right. And then we should have enough to do some good work here. A little low on supply on this tank corps. And it's at 50 fatigue, so we might even let that just hold. And then over here we have a rifle corps and a mechanized corps. We have a lot of opportunity here to push up. You'll see now that we're starting to get to the actual Stalingrad fighting area. They have completely pulled back, it appears. So it's going to be a lot of movement to try to reestablish a new front line here. But we do want to take the ground while they've evacuated it. So let's see, though, if we attack this Jaeger division. Or hear me out, if we can push through here, so this is a Romanian infantry division and Luftwaffe field division, if we can push through here and interrupt this supply line, I really like the thought of that. Let's do that. All right, and we got their depot. That is some fantastic news. So both of them have enough strength to move in there. The question is, do we want to? So I think what we're going to do is we're going to move in force. All of this is going to come down. We're going to attack. Nope, don't have enough strength to attack there. We're going to bring down this tank corps. And we're going to kind of redeploy our lines here. We're going to attack with the 6th Guard. Oh, we don't have enough movement, looks like, to do that. We're just going to kind of shuffle down these units to form our new defensive line. Rifle division should be okay. keep bringing these units down. I'm going to send you over to that side, actually. Move you down here near Kashri. Probably saying that incorrectly. Okay, so you're actually part of the 21st Army. I need to be mindful of all that. I think we'll have you stay with them, though. I'm going to move up our HQ to here. Okay. You belong to the 2nd Guards. That's the unit that we've been moving up. You're part of the 21st Army. Also come up. The 277th Rifle Division will go all the way up here. Where do we want the 2nd Guards Army to go? Let's keep doing the 21st here. Let's do them first. So we're going to move you up. Keep moving the 21st Army. So that's a Rifle Division Cavalry Corps. Okay, so I think... Oh, and here we need to assign this to a HQ. Now it's part of the 2nd Guards. That makes sense. So do the 2nd Guards come over here? Or do they push straight? I think it makes sense to have the 2nd Guard kind of fill in this gap here. So that's what we're going to do. Yep, this is making sense to me. All right. 65th Army. Do we have any more of the 2nd Guards? Don't think we did. That's the 2nd Guard. 21st Army is here. Okay, so they're all there. And then the 15th Guard is over here on this side. Okay. So we're going to take the 15th Guard. Or, no, this is part of the 57th Army. So here's the 57th Army. So you can come down here. You are also part of the 57th Army. Okay. So then the 57th Army will hold this little stretch. And then the 65th Army can come down here. This is all working out quite well. Okay. Full stack of the 65th Army just sitting here. Keep moving all of these south. And then we have the 51st Army. Wait, no, let's not forget about anyone here. So the 57th Army, you belong over here. And then we're going to take the 57th Army HQ and move you up. Okay, it's going well. The 65th Army HQ needs to move up. We're going to go one more up. There we go. Actually, we're going to go on the rail line. Okay. Now we have the 51st Army I'm going to have you go kind of in lockstep with the 65th. Heading in the exact same direction. Cavalry units making their way forward. That's good. Look at this advance. And then you're now part of different armies. So let's move down the 51st Army HQ to there. Okay. Okay. So then the 28th Army is going to swing around this way. The cavalry go ahead of the units here to do a little bit of scouting. We're also part of the 28th Army, huh? So have you go up here. Then we'll move the HQ up. Okay. I'm going to go just down to here, and then I'm going to hop back up to Stalingrad. I'm going to move you up. And just going to head west with all these units. Good stuff. You go there. Get the HQ back within contact of all of their forces. Okay, back up to Stalingrad. Had a lot of movement there, but took a lot of ground, which is good. We just zoom out. I mean, when we started this scenario, you can just follow my mouse. This was kind of the front line, right? All the way around here. So we've taken a lot of ground in just 7 turns. And you can just see this entire region collapsing back towards Rostov now. Back to Stalingrad, though. So, looks like their supply situation's still good. That won't last forever. If I'm being honest, I'm expecting this probably to have these guys surrounded for another 5 turns or so, just because we have no reason to really rush this, other than the fact that this is 4 or 5 armies that are off the front lines right now. But let's see if we don't have anywhere we can push an advantage. So that's 2 to 1. Here we have 3 to 1. So we're going to attack here. They retreat it. All right. We're going to move all those forces up. Now if we take all of these and attack there as well. So they held. Lost 50 armored fighting vehicles, my goodness. Okay. We attack here, that's 2 to 1. Let's try it. They held again. Okay. And what about here? Nope, not going to do that. So that's probably the extent of our attacks this turn. Oh, well, that's 2 to 1. I think it was 2 to 1 last turn too, though. But we looked at this and we said, I think we have a river to cross. Do we? I feel like there is a river there, but I can't necessarily tell on them. Yeah, there is a river going right down there. So we'd be crossing a river, and they have level 4 fortifications, which mean, you know, concrete pillboxes. I think we've probably done enough here. Now, next turn, what we can look to do is we can try to maybe cut off and get into this hex here with these 6 divisions. I think that would probably be ideal. If not, we probably have an opportunity to now, with full force, attack this hex. So that's Stalingrad. Now we're going to go down and continue our southern campaign in the Caucasus region. Let's have you move here. You can go there. No, that was a misclick. It's a misclick. I promise I didn't mean to. Okay. Some of you are going to go north here. So we don't need all of you. Don't need all of you to come here when we've already captured that. Alright, so you're moving up. Just have to keep moving up all these forces. Do this en masse here. Take these, move them up. Okay, good stuff. Here we will take this mount division, move them up to the city. The 83rd we're going to move there. Move up the 10th Rifle Brigade. Okay. Up the 33rd. So we've captured that city. Continuing to move up all these units. Oh, I actually missed these. So have you go there. There. Okay, good stuff. You have quite a bit of catching up to do, but you're finally in some flat ground that you can do so. Okay, so we have all of these armies kind of moving up north towards Rostov. The one thing we do know is they must have something over here in Akhtarsk, because we actually saw them do air resupply over there. And then remember, we are going to start building up some forces to maybe try another attempt here at an invasion of Crimea via this ferry. So to do that, I think we needed to take the 56th Army units that we have here. Yeah, you guys, you start moving you down. And the 56th Army is going to be our Crimea Army, if you will. Okay. Let's just see if we can get across here. They held again. We certainly had some odds in our favor. We're going to just push it again. Nope, can't. Never mind. But I think we're getting pretty close here. Because this is just one infantry division that's pretty depleted from the looks of it. My worry is if they move up the 252nd, then I don't know if we'll ever have enough forces to actually assault and win here. We're going to take the 47th Army, though, and start moving on Akhtarsk. With, again, the belief that they do have some units there. And this unit, we're actually going to move over to get closer to the army and cover the northern approach. Here, you can actually make it all the way up there. Excellent. Excellent news. As you come across, you can come across. And we're going to move up this HQ unit. Okay, so now everyone's in supply there. That HQ's fine. Have we moved these guys? We have not. So let's see. Take both of these. We just follow south of the rail line here. You move up. Okay. Some of you, not all of you. Okay. All right. Wow, so this looks completely different. Again, start of the scenario, we had pretty much following this mountain line was the border, or the front line, I should say. And they had to about here in terms of occupied, because we didn't even have this rail line when we started the scenario. So, speaking of rail lines, any progress in this getting repaired? Nope. Nope, that's a worry. Look at all of those broken rail lines. Oh my gosh. And I don't even know if it's ever going to be enough of a priority to get done in time. Which means we're going to be in some interesting supply situations long term, I think. But it's not like rail lines were the only way that units resupplied during World War II, right? There were other means of resupply. Trucks, lorries, air resupply, etc., etc. So this kind of wraps it up for the ground movement phase that we had for the second half of turn 7. Now I want to take just a little bit of time and look at another mechanic of the game, which is reinforcements and withdrawals. And you can get to this via the I shortcut key or clicking this button on your info screen interface. And what this displays to the player is all the units that are either coming in as reinforcements for you to use, or transferring between theater boxes, or units that have been built and ready to go into the reserve, etc., and units that have been on the map but have disbanded for one reason or another, or have been shattered, defeated, etc., etc. They're moving into Soviet reserves is what this might represent. So, looking at this screen here, we see there are a total of 259 unit reinforcements and transfers that are currently displayed. And you can actually, they've done a very good job with this, you can actually look and filter down to specific unit types or functions. So if we just wanted to see all of the reinforcements we're getting, right? This is already then pre-filtered to that. So to read this, we'd see that in turn 8, we're going to get this mortar brigade, the 37th Mortar Brigade, and they are going to be transferred to the Far East Theater Box. And then here's some brief details about that unit. So they have 2,800 men, 105 guns. In turn 9, we see a whole bunch of armor that is coming into our Soviet reserve box. And I think that this is representative of the units that we actually last turn built. And this is going to happen in turn 9. And if you look at this, you see that today it just says that they have 2 KV-1s ready in this particular unit. Same here in this unit. So they're not quite up to being fully supplied because they only have 2 KV-1s, no armored cars, and no support, right? So it has some work still to be done. If we clear this filter again, we can also see units that have arrived to different theater boxes or the map. So for example, we have the 1172nd Anti-Tank Brigade. I actually didn't know that they had a nomenclature that went that high. But this anti-tank regiment actually has arrived on the map, and it is present in hex 247-152. And if we look at it, we see that this is actually attached to the 60th Army. So if we looked at a unit in the 60th Army, we would be able to attach to one of their units this 1172nd Anti-Tank Brigade, which has 20 anti-tank rifles, 20 45mm anti-tank guns, and some support units. This motorized brigade actually has arrived in our Soviet reserves theater box. And if we take a look at this, we see the composition of the unit, which is 3,000 men, 74 gun platforms. And they're now available in the Soviet reserves. over, and right here we're looking at units, but if we hop over to air groups, the exact same view is shown. But this might look familiar to the viewer as well, that in turn 8, look at all of these air units that are going to the northern front. And if you remember from the previous episode, we looked at the northern front and said, hey, we're meeting our obligations in terms of ground support forces that we've allocated to the theater box, but we're a little short on air units. So we actually took all of these air groups and decided to transfer them in the northern front. And this is showing you that next turn, that's going to happen, right? So it also shows here that we have these 2 MiG air groups that today are sitting on the map, right, as part of an air army, but they're going to go to Soviet reserves. And we can probably deduce that that's going to happen because when we look at the number of airframes that are ready to be used, we see that they have been depleted to 2 and 3 aircraft, right? So if you think of an air operational group usually having somewhere in the range of like 16 to 20 airframes, these have 2 and 3 each. So it makes a lot of sense that they would then be pulled off of the front line for the pilots and the unit to reconstitute itself. So this is the reinforcements and transfers window. It's a very useful, informative tool for you. You could get by playing this entire game with never having looked at this, but that doesn't mean that you should ignore it. It does provide very valuable information for you to be able to see when you're going to have different things available to you. I mean, we can go down and like look at all of these support regiments of SP guns that are going to be coming in this turn 16. And each of these is going to have Su-76s, which is a self-propelled kind of tank gun platform, if you will. Similar to the Stug 3s and Hetzers and Marder 2s that we've been fighting already against the Germans. Those were actually first really introduced by the Germans, and later the Soviets picked up on their effectiveness and started to design their own platforms to do the same role and purpose. So that's the reinforcements and transfer window. With all of that said, we're going to hit the AI Depot Assist again out of paranoia, because I can't remember if I did in the previous episode. And then we're going to end our turn, and we're going to see what the Germans end up doing to counterattack some of the moves we've had. And it also looks like we're doing a few supply runs, air resupply runs, for some of our units that got a little more stretched this turn. So this is going to go through and simulate these. It does look like we're suffering some losses while doing this, which is unfortunate. Like there, we lost 3, but it's probably a worthwhile exercise. The thing to note now that I'm looking at the map here is we may actually want to rush Stalingrad a little more than I had thought until I just saw that visual, right? Is zoomed out on the Stalingrad front, what I just realized is, while it's occupied, we can't have those rail lines moving up towards our front that's pushing down towards the Crimea and Odessa. And those are going to be critical for us to be able to push on further and further against the German forces. So maybe we need to reconsider just our timetable for pressing against Stalingrad. I do think that if we take 2 of those air bases that are currently there, it's going to probably help our efforts to cut off their air resupply, or if we can even cut down their forces in half down the middle. That should also help isolate them in the encirclement. A tactic that was actually pretty commonly used by the Germans, especially in the first year of the war, where you encircle a larger army group, and then what you do is these decisive drives within their pocket to separate and create smaller and smaller pockets that you've encircled. And it wasn't necessarily that they would cut through the pocket and then establish these trench lines to prevent them from crossing over and such. It was more so just the interdiction of having, say, a panzer division cut through the middle of a pocket, that it interrupts communication, it interrupts supply between the various groups that are encircled, and cause quite a bit of chaos. The Germans are now executing their air directive phase, and that's interesting. This is probably the most active we've seen the Germans with their air force in a number of turns. I think a lot of them were probably recon missions, but nonetheless it looks like we actually shot down one of their planes and they lost 11 to the weather, because there's 11 operational losses. I shouldn't presume that it's losses to the weather. It could be a number of things. A rookie pilot just having a malfunction on the landing gear and not being able to land the aircraft, for example. That's an operational loss too. But hey, at least we shot down one of them, so that's something. And now it's moved on to their ground phase, so this is where we get to see where they're going to counterattack and what they're going to do. This is some of their air resupply into the Stalingrad front. At the very least, one of the benefits here is we really are causing attrition to their air force and trying to resupply the Stalingrad area. Because we have a lot of anti-aircraft in the area, and we have some fighters as well. And maybe that's another thing that I do, is we can probably take a lot of those divisions there, and we could probably attach to them additional anti-air units. That's not a bad thought. Okay, so it looks like they counterattacked up in Leningrad, but we held the line. They're doing the same in a different part of the line, trying to break out their two isolated units. But we continue to hold all of these counterattacks, which is excellent news. Oh, that one was a little closer. They got within 50 yards of our line. Did we hold again? We did. So I think we're going to end up surviving another turn with those isolated. Defending forces held. Good job. Keep holding, guys. Keep holding that line. Okay. Looks like we held. Okay, halted them at 300. Good. So this is going quite well up there. Oh, they counterattacked again. This is the same hex by that pocket with the airfield. They pushed us back once again. The same thing happened in the previous turn. Here it looks like they pushed us off the front line. This is down near Stalingrad. Oh, and they've actually did a follow-up attack there too. But we held against that, so that's good. Here's where we are stretched a little deeper into their line. We were very successful against their armored forces. So I think that's actually going to work out. I know it's still a little early, but I think... Oh, yeah, they're reorganizing their fronts. I think we held in this little breakout pocket we had. Good. Good. Here we got pushed back. This is near the Riga-Leningrad front. We held down here, and this is good because this is the area where we're having some supply concerns. Continue to hold the line. We're going to have a lot of battles to recap next turn. We didn't have so many to do in this episode. 3 attacks was just too much. We couldn't hold all of them. Okay. Wow, they're pretty aggressive this turn. They're really pushing against us. But this is good because this adds volatility to the front lines, and I would rather fight through that than try to fight through these super fortified positions, so this is good. Okay, now it's rebuilding their defensive line, it looks like. Their turn is just about finished. On the edge of my seat here, guys. Can't wait for the next episode to see what happened. Rail repair. I still think that's a little funny considering they haven't taken any rail lines in quite some time. Alright, now they're doing their final kind of air resupplies. They're going from here to here. That's interesting. I wonder if maybe they've withdrawn forces through the Crimea and they're trying to resupply them, or the opposite, they're trying to bring forces to the Crimea. I'm not sure. This makes sense here because I think there are a number of divisions that we can't even see because they've pulled them back so far. We might consider this entire front line next turn, just letting it be a bit of a breather turn. We'll see. I'd be a little curious what it might look like if we just said, okay, this turn is just a turn of rest, and we're going to try to focus ourselves a little before we push on any further. This is now doing our logistics phase. Then we'll go over the turn summary and the news events and bring the episode to a close. Still calculating. Okay, there we go. The amount of things that are happening in the background, I've done some reading and research into the game, obviously, to start this series, but I think there's so much that I don't even have a clue about that it just amazes me and wonder when I think about how complex this game is and the simulations that it does produce. If you're sitting here still on the fence after 12 episodes of whether or not you should give this game a try, I gotta tell you, pick it up and just enjoy it. Just hop in and enjoy it. If you have any interest in this subject, I'm sure you will. Alright, so our turn summary. We saw 63,000 losses. Very similar to last turn. Actually makes me question if it's not the same number. It looks so similar. 1,000 gun platforms destroyed. 373 armored fighting vehicles lost. 119 airframes lost. Our order of battle shows a net loss of 50,000 men, 500 gun platforms, 170 armored fighting vehicles, but we did grow our airframes by 187. The Germans, on the other hand, took net losses of 30,000 men, 74 gun platforms, but they grew their airframes and their armored fighting vehicles by 100 each. Our number of units in low supply, excuse me as I catch my breath here, has tripled since the last turn. That is something we need to spend a lot of time next turn looking at and thinking about. So we have 131 units that have less than 75% supply. Last turn that number was, I think, 48. The turn before that it was 33. That is very unsustainable. And it effectively means that, I mean, about 1/4, 1/3 of our units are low supply. It's way too high. Then let's take a look here at news events. So let's see. The 8th Air Force raids early 1943. So this is the U.S. 8th Air Force. Conducts multiple large bomber raids against German rail yards and heavy industry areas. These raids involve 300 to 400 bombers. The most significant of them is the 5-month-long bombing campaign of the German Ruhr industry complex. The effect of this campaign is a severe reduction in the production of steel and armaments. So it looks like this is just a campaign event that has negative impact to the reinforcement and production capacity of Germany, which is very welcome news considering that in recent turns we've seen them actually grow net positive in armored fighting vehicles. Here we see that there's a garrison shortage in Western Europe, which causes political problems, so they lost a victory point and an administrative point. So this is because they're not maintaining their Western Europe theater box to the levels that they should be. They've now suffered a bit of a consequence of that. So what that tells us is we're probably facing more on-map units fighting against us than we otherwise would if they're meeting all their obligations. And then we see that Soviet partisans continue to be a problem for the Germans behind the front line. I think this has been a fantastic episode. A lot going on. I think turn 8 is going to be one of the more interesting turns that we've had in this series, so I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to give these videos a view. I hope that they bring you some insight into the game and get you scratching that itch to play this rivet counter level of Wargame. Should you have any questions, comments, or feedback for the series or me, the game, please add them in the comments section below and I'll do my best to address them. And wishing you all the best and take care, strategy gamers. Have a great day.